This is the 18th season of Bass Talk Live. With your host, Matt Pangrath. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Bass Cat Boats, AFCO, Duck It Fishing, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, and Pro Guide Batteries.
BTL, coming at you!
It is Tuesday, January 18th, 2022, and this is Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk about bass fishing. We have a heck of a show lined up today. And I was thinking over all of the years that Mark Jeffries and myself have done BTL, I don't think that we have ever had a pending world record holder on the show. This is one of those things. So I always talk about the BTL listeners, super educated. I love the feedback, the conversations, the information that I get in my DMs and Instagram because I'm not a big Facebook guy, which apparently I'm missing the boat, and some of that I might need to get back into the Facebook game. But I got a DM from Brandon, and he's like, "Hey man, I don't know if you find this interesting or not, but like I kind of caught a pending world record, and it's got to go through a bunch of stuff to figure out exactly what kind it is and species and go through all the paperwork. But like it kind of went down a couple days ago, and he attaches a picture, and it is a 8.36 pound, what they believe to be a meanmouth out of Texas. I don't know how if you want to name the lake. If it goes through and does it, everyone will know where it is anyway. We'll leave that up to Brandon because we're going to get him in to talk about it. But he said it's either a Texas state record smallmouth or a pending world record meanmouth. So I said, hey, man, hop on the show. Let's talk about it for a little bit. So we will bring Brandon in. Then after he talked to Brandon, show off this giant fish that he caught out of Texas last week, we're going to have Jimmy Washam on. And if you remember Jimmy Washam was, I guess I would say, an angler with a lot of upside to him that we had on the show in 2019. He had just qualified for the MLF Pro Circuit. This was that year that all the craziness was happening with the split and everything was going on, and it was going from the FLW Tour to the Pro Circuit. Jimmy was working a full-time job, had some people that message were like, man, this guy can really catch him. He can really catch him. You need to have him on the show. I think he's going to be the next big thing. Now, we kind of get that a lot on the show, but we had Jimmy on, and both Mark and I were super impressed with just the way he was able to interview. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was his first interview. Well, in 2020 and 2021, and we'll talk to him about this, all the dude did was he won a Toyota Series, he won the Pro Circuit title, and he did over $385,000 in earnings. Not too shabby. So we'll have Jimmy on after we talk to Brandon, but let's bring Brandon in, get kind of the, I guess this would be breaking news, scoop, behind the scenes of a potential world record. Brandon, what's up, man? How are you doing?
Hey, what's going on, Matt?
Not a lot. I kind of set it up before, but I just opened up my DMs, and there is a photo of, well, literally, potentially the biggest meanmouth ever caught on a rod and reel, and you're like, dude, I caught this thing. And kind of fill the listeners in. What's going on? What's the story behind this? How did it go down? What's the deal with this massive fish? Because I hadn't heard anything of it.
All right, so what the deal is, I think it's been 3 days now. I went down to OHIV. I guide and do a lot of electronics training down there. And I had a client with me. He was in the bottom of the boat, changing baits or something. I got it on video, but saw a fish. I'm live scoping them in 20 to 40 foot over deep trees. And I saw a fish ascend over the top of one of the trees. I made a 30, 40 foot cast. brought it up over the fish, and I saw the fish kind of turn and look at it, and I kind of paused it for a second, let it fall back down barely, and kept coming, and I saw the fish come up and ate it and set the hook, got it to the boat. A couple of weeks ago, I had lost one that was a big one. There's so many trees that if you don't horse them out of the trees, then they'll get you hung up down there, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I was treating it like I was ocean fishing. I was really trying to get him out of the trees, got him up, got him in the net, and at that point, in my head, I was thinking, it's 8 or 9 pound largemouth, and the guy with me, he's like, "Dang, is that a 10 pounder?" I was like, "I don't know," and then I kind of looked at it, and I was like, "Man, that's I'm pretty sure that's a meanmouth." And when I put my hands on it, its mouth was like super small. Had the same kind of. My dad's caught one that was like 5.5 when I was in the boat. A buddy of mine's caught one that was like 5.5 when I was in the boat. So I had a good idea of what they look like. And when I put my
there's
hands
a picture of it.
I knew that it was the world record. It was definitely bigger than 7.6, which was caught last year around the same time of year, about a year ago. The guy caught the world record. It weighed 7.6, and mine weighed 8.36. And took it up there, got it certified, called the Sherlunker people. They sent a biologist out to help. I just wanted to make sure. I've heard that with world records that you got to do everything right. I just didn't want to do anything wrong to not get the record, but had him come out, do it with me, do the measurements, do the girth, take the sample of its fin, put in a tube to get sent off to San Marcos, I think he said, and they'll test it, see if it is a meanmouth, which I'm pretty sure it is. And once they get all that done, I've already filled out the paperwork. I've got to go today, get the paperwork notarized, get the IGF. There's two separate entities. You've got Texas Parks and Wildlife, and then you have they handle the state and lake records. Then you have the IGFA, which is world record. So you've got two separate things that you both got to get notarized. Send them off to both those people. The pictures of what you caught it on, the rod, the reel, the measurements, the weight, all that stuff. Picture of you with the fish, and after all that's done, I don't think it should be a problem. I talked to the guy on the phone that had the world record before me, and he said it's a pretty easy process, especially since Texas Parks and Wildlife was there to do everything. It's not like I was just saying I did it. They were there watching me do it, So
This isn't like a deal where you just went out with like, oh, let's go fishing. Holy cow, what a fish. I mean, you knew this was a possibility, and you knew that you kind of had to have your ducks in a row. That I kind of did a little research before. You've caught multiple double digits,
right.
or at least one that I found where it was like, hey, Brandon Burks caught a 12
Right.
something out of the lake. So you kind of knew this was a possibility when you launched your boat.
Oh, definitely. Last year, I think it was February 22nd, me and my dad went down to the same lake, and in the same day, he catches a 13.4 about 8:30. We called the Sherlunker people. Wait, that whole process takes a while. They come pick it up. We went back out after they left, went to a completely different spot, and then I catch that 12.4. So we caught a 13.4 and a 12.4 in the same day. Had like 47 pounds that day. It was pretty unreal, but yeah, that's what everybody's down there. I mean, on a Monday. I was down there yesterday, and there's 50, 60 trucks at the ramp. I mean, everybody's hunting the state record. I think she's probably in there. I'm just got to find her.
Total zoo.
It's insane. Everybody from Fork is there. Everybody that's anybody is trying to get down there.
Do you do that? What do you do for a living? I know you do a little bit of guiding. Do you have a full-time job? Is this your gig? Like, what's your jam?
That's my jam. My dad owns a concrete business, so I've done that my whole life up until about a year and a half ago. I started my business, Burks Fishing, which is guiding and electronics training, and it's just really blown up the past year. Even the past 6 months, I've been super blessed. I've got 2022 Nitro Z20, got a couple sponsors, so everything's on the uphill climb.
Very nice. If people want to follow this journey, I'm assuming you'll post it on your social media as far as kind of how it
Yeah.
goes and if it gets and whether you know exactly what it is. Where can they follow this pending world record?
You can follow my Facebook page, Brandon Burks, Facebook page, Burks Fishing, Instagram, Burks Fishing, TikTok, Burks Fishing. Everything's pretty much Burks Fishing.
You just do one lake, or you mess around on there? I mean, that this lake seems to be kind of crazy.
Uh,
How it just was like it just a couple years ago. It was like, oh yeah, there's like three different species of bass you could set state world records in out of this one pond.
right. The day before that, me and my dad caught those big ones. I caught a 605 smallmouth, and he caught a 5.5 pound meanmouth. So it's pretty cool. The picture with both of them side by side. I've got that on one of my posts on maybe on my Facebook where it shows the differences. But
Huh.
yeah, it's insane. Like, but I do all over North Texas, from Texoma, Possum Kingdom, all over. I fish.
How
My
long you been
dad has
doing that?
fished. Uh, I mean, I've been fishing around here. My dad's fished tournaments my entire life, so that's pretty much all I've ever known. Is tournament bass fishing. That's pretty much all I've ever known. Is until this year and when I started my guide business and stuff. But fishing is all I've ever known. My whole family is ate up with it. I mean, but not just any fishing. I mean, my dad could be on 100 crappie during the day, and in the summer, and I would go want to struggle for one bass bite. That's just how I am. But
Uh, Brandon, for those of us, all of us, yeah, probably all of us, who will never know what it is like to be waiting to see if a pending world record is verified. what, what is that? What is that
oh
feeling
man,
like? And do you have any idea of a timeline? And then, if it is, do you have plans of celebrating, or what do you plan to do if you do
man, I
become a
really don't.
world record holder?
Man, I don't know. I haven't. My phone's been blowing up since it happened. It was already blowing up before that happened, but 2 days before that, before I caught that fish, I caught one that was like almost 10. It's just been insane. That lake is insane. There's giants in there. So that's the next step. That was a good accomplishment, but now I need that 16 pounder.
Oh, you're getting greedy now, dude.
Hunting for it,
Uh,
man. Hunting for it.
well, Brandon,
Yeah,
I
it's
appreciate
different.
you messaging me about this, and I want to show that picture one more time. Jeez, that thing is how. What were the measurements on it?
It was 23 inches long and like a 17 and 3/4 inch girth. Yeah,
That's a
caught it on
beast,
an
man.
A rig, so nothing's secret.
Did it? What? I mean, did it truck it? Was it a thumb? Was it a slack line? How did that thing hit it?
And I watched it on the screen. Like, I was literally looking at the live scope as I was bringing that A rig over that tree, and I watched it come up and eat. Like, if you watch the video of me catching it, I literally sat back and, I mean, I gave it the onion when I set the hook into it. And, as soon as I set the hook into it, I could tell that it was definitely a big fish. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
It's cool
Well, thank you.
when you can see the fish.
What's that?
It's pretty cool when you can see. It's pretty cool when you can see the fish before it bites. It's insane.
Hey, I got one more question. Then we had Ben Milliken on the show last week, I
Yes,
believe.
sir.
Yeah, last week, and he said that he believes he has seen I think his term was a handful, a number, multiple,
Yeah.
what he deems 18 to 20 pound bass on live scope. Do you think you've ever seen any
Yeah.
that big?
And I've seen some that get within this close of your bait. It's just finding the one that's dumb enough to mess up and bite it. They get a lot of
That's
pressure. They've seen probably at least a million A rigs. You go by a tree that's sunken in the water, and you'll see it looks like a Christmas tree. There's so many A rigs hanging from it, so they see them all the time. It's just finding one that's dumb enough to bite.
that's awesome, man. You got any open dates left this year, or are you pretty much slammed?
Man, I do. I've got some open dates if people want to holler at me. Uh, you can shoot me a message. I don't know if should I give out my phone number?
That's up to you, man. Can
Yeah,
they shoot you a
817.
DM or shoot you a DM
Yeah,
on your Instagram? Is that
yeah, or Facebook, either way.
all right?
Yes, sir.
Dude, that's a heck of a story, man. I appreciate you coming on BTL to talk about it.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. I enjoy it. Did you change up the intro music?
Yeah, we went with a little bit different music because, Jeffrey's
love it.
retired, so I had to change it, but I wanted to keep it familiar.
Yeah.
And he was like, dude, you can't go too
love it,
techno
man.
with it. And I was like, but I also don't want to sound like I'm at a Slayer concert. So then we reached this medium where I was like, well, if I'm making the decisions on the show, I want this music. And he's like, well, I still have input in this. Absolutely not. And then we were going through the royalty-free music site. We came across that one, and I was like, I like that one.
Yeah.
Jeffrey was like, I like that one too. So that's how we ended up with the intro music.
Hey, I like it, man. New year, new you.
Yep. All right, dude. I appreciate it. Have fun. Good luck. Keep me informed on as to what's going on with the pending world record on the meanmouth. Brandon Burks down there in Stephenville, Texas. They do a lot of rodeoing down there in that neck of the woods, as rumor has it.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good luck. That is it. We are going to run just 2 quick commercial breaks, get Jimmy Washam on, and talk to another guy who is riding high heading into 2022. Like I said, I think $385,000 in earnings over the last 2 years. It's BTL on a Tuesday. We'll be right back.
The Ultimate Fishing System by Lowrance. Your choice of powerful fish-finding tools, all connected. From sonar and trolling motor to navigation and networking. To fit the way you fish. All with touchscreen control from HDS Live, the heart of your system. Find more, see more, catch more with the Ultimate Fishing System by Lowrance. Upgrade to the Ultimate Fishing System and get up to $1,000 cash back.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
I've made my living on the water for over 20 years.
For 14 years.
For over 23 years.
I've worn a bunch of different clothing brands over the years.
Some companies big.
And some companies small.
All of them said they were making clothing for us. But none of them knew us.
None of them were us.
Except for one.
Except for one.
Except one.
AFCO.
AFCO.
AFCO. AFCO.
Fishing isn't part of us. It is us.
The KVD 100 jerkbait. 15 different colors. A perfect combination of roll, wiggle, and flash. Increased castability. 3D eyes. Premium black nickel hooks. KVD. Tie one on. Striking lures.
We are back, BTL, on a Tuesday, the 18th. And yes, that was Brandon Burks who has the pending world record. I don't know how long it takes to get all that stuff verified. But yes, I do believe he said he gave it the onion when he set the hook. Someone who has been giving it the onion a lot recently is Jimmy Washam, defending MLF Pro Circuit title champ. I would be interested to see. I was kind of disappointed. We're looking at him here that he does not have the belt currently on. He won that back in August. Jimmy, how are you doing? Welcome to BTL for the second time.
The second time. It's good to be back, Matt. Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
What do you think about, have you ever played in the realm of world, state, lake record material? Have you ever had any close encounters like that?
The closest encounter I've had would be with a giant deer. When I was a kid, I had an opportunity to get a shot at a deer that maybe would have rivaled the Mississippi state record. I mean, it was it was like cover of magazine type deer, and never with a fish though, not anywhere close.
As a hunter, you can tell when you see a deer like that, like you immediate like a no. Is it kind of like seeing a fish on a bed where you're like, oh my gosh, that thing is cartoonish?
Yeah, I mean, there's no second guessing it for sure. When I saw that deer, it would be the equivalent of seeing an 18-pounder on a bed.
What happened?
The deer, it was actually on the way out. It didn't happen like it should have. And if I'd have stayed where I was for 30 more minutes, the deer would have walked right in front of me when I was set up hunting. But it was on the way out. The deer had seen me before I saw him. He was a long way, and I tried to move over to a fence post to get a rest with my rifle. And just as I got him in the scope, he turned and made one hop and was gone. But we're talking like I don't know, deer had like 30 or 40 points, and it was a deer of a lifetime. It still haunts me.
30 or 40 points.
Yeah. He had all the points.
In your outdoor adventures, is that the moment that you think of the most when you combine all of hunting and all of fishing? It's that moment?
It's definitely one of the top three as far as like, something that I look back on and wish it would have worked out differently. Definitely number one.
Huh. I've done in the past, like I went through a phase where I was like, oh, let's see if I can catch any record fish. And you start doing like, oh, what's the 8-pound test class record spoonbill in Oklahoma and stuff like that, and go down that wormhole. Yeah. But nothing like a 830, what was it, an 836, 832. I got it written down here because there's really not much any for 836 meanmouth. I mean, I had a 2.2 lake record spotted bass one time that got broken, and I was heartbroken after that. But that was my claim to fame, a 2.2 spot from Lake Thunderbird for a while. So,
yeah, that's a giant meanmouth.
I went back on the way into the studio today, and this is the second time we've had you on BTL, and we had you on in 2019. And at the time, you had just qualified for the MLF Pro Circuit. Mm-hmm. I believe you're working a full-time job, and you were talking about how you went all in 2019 to qualify for the circuit in 2020. And you really didn't know what was going to happen, but you had confidence in yourself, and you were dedicated to giving it everything you had to make a career out of professional bass fishing. Take me back to that time and what you remember on what I just recently learned was your first interview in the fishing industry.
Yeah. Yeah, I did that interview from the squad car. I was sitting in uniform and had to ask if I could go park somewhere quiet for a minute to do an interview. But in 19, it just my age and the time that I built up in vacation at work and everything in life, I just felt like it was the time. And I mean, what I do now is what I've dreamed of doing ever since I was, literally 3 years old. So it was just the perfect time for me to say, okay, let's see what we're made of and see if we can do this. And by the grace of God, it all worked out that I qualified. And then, I mean, that's a whole nother chapter in the story about talking about the financial risk. And there was times where I was leaving the driveway and wondering if I would have $1 to my name when I got back. And a couple different times, I was in a situation like that, like to a point where I was going to have to start selling hunting gear, to keep fishing. And then things worked out for the better. And I got, on the plus side. And by no means do I want to act like it's been, uphill both ways in a foot of snow, because I believe compared to a lot of other guys that have really grinded it out and been successful in this game, I've been fortunate enough for it to happen pretty quickly. And some guys would probably look at it and say that my path has been pretty easy. So I'm just thankful that, that I was able to juggle work and fishing for a couple of years, and now it's full-time fishing. And the next goal is just to make sure that I secure some longevity in the sport.
When was your last day in a squad car?
September 29th. I I got hired September 28th, 2012, and September 29th, 2021. I wanted to make sure that I completed 9 years just because it meant something to me, and that was it.
How important was that second pro circuit stop of your career on the Harris chain? And you finished second overall in that tournament. Obviously, had to be disappointed with not getting the win, but that put $30,000 in your pocket. I mean, that pretty much covered the rest of the 2020 season, even if you didn't catch another fish from a entry fee standpoint.
That's right. You know, that was the most important event that I've fished, regardless of the things that have developed after that, because I did not realize I had a little bit of money put back because I knew that professional fishing would require quite a bit, but I didn't realize how much I was going to spend on equipment, you know, little stuff that I needed for the new boat that I was outfitting and rigging, and the bank account got to a place where it was much less than I anticipated starting the season. So going to Florida, making 30,000, pretty much securing the rest of the year, it helped me relax and be able to, you know, just not be miserable and a ball of stress for the entire season. So that was by far the most important event. And when I look back on it, I'm glad I didn't win it. If I'd have won my second professional event, and you probably saying, why in the world would you not want to win it and make $100,000? If I'd have won my second professional event, do I think that I would have had the drive and the motivation and the hunger to work as hard as I have the last 2 years while I was working a full-time job? I don't think there was any way I could have. So I'm most thankful for that second place finish, for what it did for me, and for the drive and the, you know, I got a little taste of the pie, but I wanted all of it after that. So, you know, that was really a big deal.
Were you like bitterly disappointed immediately after that, or were you excited, or were you relieved? Do you remember the feelings when you realized, dang, Laramie's the only guy ahead of me?
You know, it was a feeling that I've never felt in fishing. I had a bellyache and I had butterflies and excitement at the same time, because $30,000 meant a lot. But I also realized, man, if we wouldn't have had a day canceled and I was on the fish so well, I don't know that Laramie was as consistent as I was. And a lot of people, you know, I'd listen to podcasts and stuff after that. A lot of people would say, yeah, if we wouldn't have lost today to the weather, Washam would have won that one. And it kind of, you know, gnawed at me a little bit, but with a little bit of time behind it, I realized, like, I don't need to win my second professional event. So this, you know, this is a good thing. So it didn't take long, you know, for that bellyache to go away.
Do you think that being in law enforcement and having to make really like quick decisions, put things in perspective, deal with stress, pressure all the time, really allowed you to adapt to high pressure situations and fishing easier than those of us who don't really experience that kind of chest, stomach, heart flutter feeling all the time?
Absolutely. Not just law enforcement, but the role that I played in law enforcement. I was a firearms instructor and chemical weapons, and a lot of what I did, and especially when I became an instructor and that stuff, is taught people how to deal with adrenaline. And adrenaline will I mean, it can absolutely ruin you. It diminishes your fine motor skills, you know, dexterity and things you do with your fingers. And for me to learn how to deal with that and breathe through it and put it out of my mind and still focus and not get tunnel vision, it basically makes it much easier for me not to spin out. I can't imagine some of the stress that we're put under in professional fishing with how much money you have on the line. If I didn't have the ability to put that out, you know, and to cope with it, it would be harder. Like, I can promise you that.
Have you taken actually like professional courses on managing stress and adrenaline? Like, is that you're trained in that, and then you train other people in managing that? Was that part of your?
It's not necessarily like particularly not like a week-long class of how to deal with stress, but we're taught, you know, what it does to the body, how you deal with it. And then for 9 years, I trained on how to put that stress aside and handle the situation accordingly. And now it's just second nature. The stress is different. Stress involving possible injury or death is much
A little
different.
different than fishing.
Yeah, much different than a little bit of money on the table, but it still does the same thing to your body. So it definitely plays a role in me being able to cope with stressful situations.
Yeah, like I said, we got to make this very clear what the difference between the law enforcement and that. But I can't tell you. I used to. I wouldn't say struggle with it, but notice it. And I know, I talked to my buddy who fished the Open on Grand, and I said, "Well, what'd you think?" It was his first Open, and he is as cool as a cucumber. And he's like, "Man, I got to my first spot, and I just was like, just smoking the docks with my jig because my hands were kind of numb, and I had that." And my co-anglers, will talk about, I'm so. What are some of your tips for that guy? Even if it's just a club tournament, maybe it's your first BFL, your first Toyota Series, your first Open, from the front or back of the boat, when you feel that adrenaline, like what would be some of your tips to guys to kind of get it under control, get your wits about you, and perform at the best you can on the water, managing those emotions and feelings that at the time are like, you're not like, oh, let's get all shaky and excited. It just happens.
Yeah, it just happens. There's probably there's no way to rule out the experience curve. Get 2 or 3 of them behind you, and it gets easier. Just like when I was a rookie at Police Academy, I was just a ball of stress and a nervous wreck, so you can't defeat that curve of experience. But one thing that I did, and I still do it if I need to, in stressful situations. But what I would always do if I was in a high speed vehicle pursuit, that was the most nervous that you get, because you're in an enclosed little box, and it's like the whole world around you is just unraveling. You're driving way too fast after somebody that's done something really bad. But I would do what they call combat breathing, and breathe in for 4 seconds, fill my lungs up, hold it for 4 seconds. And that's in through the nose, hold it 4 seconds, breathe out through the mouth 4 seconds. And you do that for about 3 or 4 cycles, and you can literally feel your heart rate come down. You get oxygen to the brain. You're able to look at the world around you instead of down that little tunnel that you're looking at. So, and that works for fishing too. That works for anything where you get nervous, shaky, feel the adrenaline rolling. Do that combat breathing for 3 or 4 cycles, and it'll help.
That's good stuff, Jimmy.
Yeah, I can't wait to go to the next Toyota Series event and count how many people are over there.
Hyperventilating. Hey, so you go into you have the close call in 2020. You have a good year. You make the title, but then you go into 2021 season. All things considered, a really solid 2020. You probably did what you wanted to do in your rookie year. Would you not agree?
Yeah, I think I might even mention it on the show with y'all. My goal was to make money, and I made enough money to pay for it and have a little bit left for the next year. So I think I want to say I made $80,000 that first year in earnings. Of course, that's made and earned are 2 different things, but it was a success from the fact that I proved that I could hang, and I made enough money to keep going.
You mentioned that a couple of times. It's the little things that you don't even know, when you're getting into this, that kill you financially, isn't it?
Yes, it really is. If you start out with, we'll just throw a number out there, $20,000, and you look at it, well, this entry fee, that entry fee. So by May, as long as I've cashed a check, I'll be good to go. Well, you can pretty much cut that in half, because there's equipment on the boat. There's this little thing that pops up. There's these, contingency awards that you got to pay for to enter. There's stuff on the vehicle. There's just family life. The refrigerator goes out, all that stuff. So you really need to double what you think, that little number that you have in mind, because professional fishing, it takes money to make it, for sure.
Along the lines of kind of dealing with the stress, then, and you're still looking for your major win, you go into that first Toyota Series of 2021 on Gunnersville. I believe that was in February. And you've got, for all intents and purposes, a 5-pound lead going into the final day of that event, knowing that it'll pay over 50, 60 grand and you're right back where you were in 2020 with a strong day. You've basically paid for your entire 2021 season. What do you remember sitting at the launch ramp with a 5-pound lead going, man, if I just have a decent day, I win a Toyota series and the year hasn't even started really.
Yeah. So what I remember laying in bed the night before that, I got to thinking, there have been a couple of times in my fishing career, my early fishing career, where I had chances to do what I considered at the time great things. There was a ultimate match fishing, did an invitational deal at Chickamauga, and I made the second day and ended up losing that event. I felt like that would have put me on the show for the next year, and I felt like it would have helped me, with partnership ability and all that. I went into a regional the year that the All-American for the BFLs was at Pickwick the next year. What I consider my home lake. I went into day 3 in 5th place. They take the top 6, and I choked and finished 8th. So all those little things where I had the ability to do something that at the time I considered was a great accomplishment, and I choked. Basically, I got to kind of rehashing that in my mind. I came up with this game plan, a prayer, a little 3-word kind of motivational deal, and it's to be humble, focused, and motivated. And I put those in priority. To be humble, the worst thing that we can do as anglers or just people going through life is to try to bask in what we've already accomplished, because it's probably going to come to a screeching halt if we do that. So, and then focused, put all the other stuff out. It's just a day of fishing. All it matters is putting fish in the boat, and then motivated just to keep going. So that was a turning point in my mental aspect of fishing to really focus on what's ahead and put everything else out. It's just another day of fishing. The 5-pound lead didn't matter. If I won that day of fishing against the other 9 anglers, then I was going to take home the trophy. So that was really a turning point in my mental career for sure. My mental game with professional fishing.
Same thing then. You get the W, you get $60,000, and you can not fish carefree, but it really loosens you up for the remainder of last season.
Big time. And what happened, I left from Okeechobee, the first pro circuit event, and drove straight to Gunnersville. Well, what happened 3 days before I pulled out of the driveway to go to Lake Okeechobee is my title sponsor backed out. I kind of put myself in a situation where really? I didn't get a contract sealed. I learned a lesson from it. I kind of put faith in them that they'd pull through for me, and they had to back out. They were a great partner, but they just had a lot of stuff going on with COVID. So I literally pulled a perfectly good wrap off the boat and drove to Florida wondering, wow, there's a lot of money that I was expecting on having this year to help me through the year, and I don't have it anymore. So the Toyota series, took all that stress and worry away. And the ironic thing about it is I gained 2 partners in Profound Outdoors and Rockfish Gloves after that Toyota series win. And I was in a better situation than I was before. So there had been a lot of prayer and, put into that. And that was no doubt, an answer that took all that stress away.
You've been really consistent the first 2 years, and that's kind of the hallmark. You see guys that are usually kind of all over the map making rookie mistakes, figuring out fisheries that they're not used to. Do you feel like you had a little bit of an advantage being in Tennessee and kind of a little bit centrally located, really to where a lot of the events have been over the past 3-4 years with basically any of the organizations? Or do you have like a system for these? So, I mean, I'm looking at it, there's 30th, 21st, 30th, 53rd. I mean, they're all $10,000 checks, dude.
Yeah. I think the main benefit that I have is a lot of experience on the Tennessee River, where you can fish grass, you can fish rock, you can fish docks, you can fish deep, you can literally catch a fish any way that you could imagine. The only curveball that you don't have there is a tidal fishery. I think that benefited me. The last 2 years, I think I've only been to 1 lake on the schedule that I had ever seen before, so it was all new. That, believe it or not, that sounds like a something, a roadblock to get over, but I really think it has taught me something about myself that's helped me be successful, and that's to fish the moment and really, cover water and pick up on little things. I used to think I had to catch a fish somewhere in practice to go back there and fish it during the tournament, and now I have no fear to if I rode by something and didn't even fish it during practice, I have no fear to turn around and make a 10-mile run to go somewhere that feels right. So it's that, and then fishing all these new fisheries has just taught me something, kind of added a characteristic to my fishing game that's benefited me a lot.
Why do you think so many tournament anglers at any level struggle to fish where they haven't caught fish in previous days?
Confidence. You don't have the confidence that there's a fish there. But once you've done it, and once you rely on what's between your ears instead of, when you start relying on what you feel rather than what you know, or a better way to do that is put it past tense, what you knew from yesterday or the day before in practice. Once you start to rely on what you feel and realize that you can get results from it, then you have confidence in making those decisions. Until you go and do that, and there's going to be a time where it fails, where you make a long run to a place that just felt right, and you get up there and it's not going down, and you can either let that whoop you and decide to never try it again, and or you can try to build on it and make the right call the next time.
Any way to develop feel other than time on the water, or is that the secret sauce? Time on the water.
Yeah, there's no way. Now, some guys develop it quicker because they make more of those decisions. It might just be a personal characteristic that they have about how they fish, but for anybody, you can't replace it by watching a YouTube video or reading a magazine article. But just knowing that it's something that a lot of anglers refer to, you got to have the realization that, wow, there is something there about feel. So you can try your hardest to build on that as a tournament angler, instead of just trying to avoid it. Some guys try to avoid it. It takes years to develop.
You spend a lot of time on the water. I know you're working a full-time job in law enforcement. You have a young daughter at home too, right? Over the last couple of years?
A son, 4-year-old.
Son, sorry, young son.
Yeah.
I know we'll get into that too, because you just announced that you're going to have another son, right?
That's right. Number 2's on the way.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I think you announced that 4 minutes before the show started. I saw that on is it? But have you always been a guy who spends every spare minute that you have or makes time to spend on the water?
Outside of that October to late January period, yes.
Which is hunting.
That's right. I'm an avid outdoorsman. I do it all. But yeah, always every moment I had to fish in the summer, I would do it. Now, the last couple of years, 3 or 4, really 5 years since I've been, serious in tournament competition, it was harder to do because really I had to kind of save all my time off for when I was competing. So, but always, if let's put it this way, if I'm sitting around, it's not hunting season, and tomorrow there's not some type of severe weather, crazy weather coming, my wife wouldn't have to ask me what I'm doing tomorrow. She already knew. She knew the boat would be gone. So
I hear you. We are talking with Jimmy Washam. When we get back, we've kind of followed your career arc, which was really only like 2.5 years. 2 years. And we haven't even gotten to the $200,000 one with the belt, whipping up on the BPT guys, and then moving ahead. Obviously, get the job done with something that is very near and dear to my heart, the Dinkin' and Duncan. So we're going to take a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll dive into that with Jimmy Washam. It's BTL on a Tuesday.
So, you're looking to buy fishing electronics, huh? Are you also looking for true experts to help guide you through it? Well, at the Bass Tank, you've come to the right place. We are live forward-facing sonar pioneers with thousands of hours spent learning through winning trophies, cashing checks, and just having fun. Whatever brand you need, we have it. We offer free shipping, and we have 2 financing options available. Our experts are here to help you. Call us today or visit thebasstank.com.
Hey guys, Major League Fishing Pro, Jacob Wheeler here with my new Signature Series line of rods with Duck It Fishing. We have my 7.2 cranking rod right here. Crankbaits can be very fickle, and having the right, having a lot of tip can be too much, and having not enough tip can, lose a lot of fish. So you really got to be careful. If there's one or two techniques that I'm really adamant about having the perfect action as a crankbait, especially like the square bill, IDK 6, those medium running crankbaits in the springtime when those fish's mouth are pretty tough. That's when I'm really on top of having my actions just perfect.
Combining one of the most popular hook styles with Gamakatsu's beefier Superline offering, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend delivers the strength necessary to target big fish in heavy cover. Well suited for braided line and heavier fluorocarbon, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend is built using stronger Superline wire that allows anglers to easily fish a finesse worm around heavy cover. The round bend offers a larger bite area, perfect for any worm presentation, while increasing your hookup ratios. The newly enhanced Z-Bend holds your plastics on the hook longer, reducing the number of pull-offs and reducing damage to plastics. Available in 2/0, 3/0, 4/0, and 5/0, this is the most durable worm hook, designed for heavier lines that hold your bait on longer.
Preparation is key to success. And that preparation starts well before you ever hit the water. You're only as strong as your connection to the fish, and your line is that critical connection. Confidence in your line every minute of every day on the water is a necessity, and failure, it's not an option. Sunline makes the fluorocarbon, nylon, and braided lines to give you the strength to guarantee your confidence.
One of the cool new jig heads that Big Bite came out with is the ram head, named after the golden ram cliff perch, and it's really designed specifically for the Ned style. But one of the cool things about this jig head and the Gamakatsu hook that Big Bite put in it, especially in the 3/16 ounce model, is how versatile it is. You can actually rig it 4 or 5 different ways instead of having to go through a myriad of different jig heads. This will get the job done. A bunch of different jig heads. You can actually very efficiently get the job done with the new ram head.
The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
Welcome back to BTL on a Tuesday. We're talking with 2021 MLF Pro Circuit title champ. I got to be honest with you, Jimmy. It's a lot easier to say Forrest Wood Cup champ, but now you have to add like all the different letters and numbers and then title, but I think I've gotten it right so far. Title champ, Jimmy Washam. And we've had you on for 30 minutes here, and we haven't even gotten to the $200,000 title belt tournament that you did last year. So that's saying something.
Yeah, that's a good thing for sure. I'm glad there's a little bit to talk about.
I remember watching this thing. Let me pull it up. So, okay, I'm going to be honest. It was difficult for me to figure out the way they did the format for this. So there was there some every fish counts, but then the final round was your best 5, or was it your best 5 and then but you were split into groups?
So we were split into groups just like the Bass Pro Tour.
Okay.
But we weighed in 5 fish every day.
That was it.
Best 5, but we did groups A and B just like the Bass Pro Tour.
Okay, but then it got down to the top 10, and then you zero your weight, so you had a 1-day shootout for $200,000.
Weights were zeroed after the first 2 days for both Group A and Group B, and they took the top 10 from each group. If you won your group, you advanced straight to championship round.
Yep.
If you were second through 10th, then you went to the knockout round, and you had to finish high enough in the knockout round, top 8 out of 18 anglers, to advance to championship round. And in the first 2 days, and then knockout, and then championship, there was 3 times that the weights were zeroed.
Okay, I promise I follow this stuff, but you know how it changes.
Yeah, I mean it's changing, evolving. Major League Fishing is trying to adapt that to the best way that fans can follow it, and I think we landed on something, because the viewership and the participation from fans in the title event this year was pretty huge.
But you went out with the weight zeroed, and there's 10 of you on the final day. And those 10 include you, Bobby Lane, Zach Burge, Mitch Crane, Skeet Reese, heard of him before?
Time or two.
Joshua Weaver, Mark Jeffrey's favorite angler, Miles Berghoff, Jimmy Reese, Justin Lucas, heard of him before?
Yep.
And Adrian Avina.
Isn't Lucas like a professional cook?
Oh, he thinks he is.
I think I saw him on the Food Network.
Yeah, he thinks he belongs on the Food Network. We might have something in the works there to kind of actually put his money where his mouth is. That's a different story. We'll get there different. But you had one heck of a final day. One heck of a final day on a river that was, let's face it, not good. When did you know?
Yeah.
Holy,
yeah,
you're like, this is a special day. I remember you watching. When did you know, like, this is a crazy day and I'm probably going to have a belt by the end of it?
I had a really good feeling at weigh-in on the stage for the knockout round the day before, because I found something that afternoon that you don't see on the upper Mississippi River in Wisconsin. It reminded me of Pickwick. I found these fish piled up on this wing dam, and I caught a 5.2 and a 4 1/4 in like 4 casts, and I had several others. I mean, it was a school of much larger than average fish that were fighting over my spook. I caught the 2 that I needed. I literally went from like 9 pounds to 15 pounds and those 2 fish, and I left it. And I knew that there was a lot of, variables there that had to fall into my lap, but I knew that if things worked out and I could go back there and land the fish that bit, that I had the greatest opportunity that I could possibly have going into championship day in a, potentially life-changing event, and to have a school of big ones sitting there waiting on me.
But you didn't end up catching them on championship day on a spook, the majority of them.
I caught the first 4 fish on a topwater, and then the conditions were different. I didn't have any ripple, and it was time to adapt. And then I just kind of started cycling through stuff, and I know finesse can be a big deal up there, especially around older fish that are smarter and bigger. And then it was just figuring out how in the world I could present a finesse presentation on a wing dam with current coming over it without getting hung every cast.
And you hadn't done that. Had you done that at all in the previous days or in practice, or was this a game time decision on the final day where you're like, let's pull out the spinning rod?
Day 2 of the event, I tried to force the buzz bait. I'd been catching them on up in the Black River and the Popper Z and other stuff, and it wasn't going down. And I pulled out a shaky head and caught a good limit. So the shaky head was on my mind. The shaky head obviously didn't work on a wing dam. The first cast I caught my 5th keeper. The second cast I got hung, and like 2 casts later after retying, I got hung again. I said, well, this is not productive. So, then the next thing that came to mind was a nail weighted Nico rig. The weight goes to the bottom. I can, if I work it right, I can keep that hook up out of the rocks and still put a finesse worm in there. So the first cast, it literally fell like 6 inches and one freight trained it. So like, well, maybe we made a good decision, and it ended up being a good one.
Did you have a bunch of fish that got hung up that you got out, that you got in?
I had one. I lost out of all those fish I caught. I lost one that had the big head shake. I never saw it, but I just had it on for a second. It didn't get me in anything. It just came off. But I had one that I don't know if there was a log pushed up on that wing dam. There was nothing visible there, but it got me in something. And I had like a 3-minute tug of war with that fish just grinding that fluorocarbon, down there on that wing dam. And I got over the fish, and after about 3 minutes of fighting and playing around with it, ended up getting the fish up. And that was a huge fish. I don't know if I beat Bobby if I don't catch that fish, because that was almost a 4-pounder. I ended up catching a 4 1/4 shortly after that kind of sealed the deal, but that was a huge fish. And man, it's a miracle that I got that fish out of there with a 10-pound fluorocarbon leader.
Are you a spinning rod guy? Is that one of your go-to things? Are you very comfortable with that? What's your game like with a spinning rod?
I'm not the guy that you'll pull up on and always see 8 of them on the deck by any means, but
Yeah.
but I am also the guy that's never going to leave it in the truck. I don't care where I'm at. I don't care if I'm in Florida. So I like when I started in my early 20s, spending more time on Pickwick, I put a shaky head in my hand and I caught a lot of fish, and that kind of built my my spinning rod game. But I've also, as I've gotten into professional fishing and with 2 days of practice like we get on the pro circuit, I've almost had to push it aside a little bit more because, unless the circumstances present themselves, but it's still good to know that I have the confidence to pick it up and go back to it.
Did the guys like Bobby and Skeet and Justin talk to you after that? Give you any advice? What to expect now that you're a champion? Were they like ticked off that they just got smoked? What was the
all those the BPT guys, everybody from from that last day of the title was real cool. I didn't have a conversation with any of those guys per se about how I move forward with this. I did have a conversation with a couple people. Timmy Horton with Profound Outdoors, he was one of them that he and I have got to a point where I can confide in him and ask for experience and advice. So he and I talked about it, and I had a conversation with a couple more guys very briefly, but the talk with Timmy was a lot of help. I had one particular situation that wasn't going the way I thought it should, and Timmy gave me some really solid advice, helped me kind of what I referred to as if I was younger and dumber, I would have already made an irrational decision on this. And Timmy talked some sense into me, and it ended up turning out the way that it should have. So that was a big help.
Yeah, I've had some really good talks with Timmy. I don't think people give him credit for the business mind that he is and what he's done with what is it, that Zuma line and the Profound Outdoors. And as I've had some talks with him about how starting it on your own and the trials and tribulations. And then it's also, I mean, obviously he's a offshore guy and really good with his electronics, but Jimmy, I saw something that would just blow my mind on Kentucky Lake probably 7, 8 years ago. We were doing this thing called Duck It on Tour, where I would media guy, I'd go out and I would video their practice day. And no forward-facing sonar, nothing. This is way before that, and I'm videoing him, and he's scanning the ledges, looking for schools. This is when there weren't Asian carp in there, so you could do that.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I think those are big catfish. Just arches, right? Like, and he goes, but they could be bass. He goes, I think they're blues. He goes, better check. And he idles over, he spins around, pulls a deep diving plug out, 3-4 cranks, gets it down there, starts burning it, and he goes, yeah, they're catfish. I just went over one's back. And I'm sitting there filming, I'm going, BS. Not 6 inches of slime on the line right above the plug. I mean, the guy went over it, saw it on his graph, knew what they were, didn't drop a point or anything, was able to bring it over, brought it over the fish, called what type of fish it was, and then had the slime on his line, and that's when I realized the man is dialed in.
Yeah. There's no doubt about it, and he's kind of nasty with a flipping stick too.
Yeah. So you win the title, you get $200,000. Do sponsors just start pouring in? Do the calls come? I mean, is it 6-figure deals, Wheaties boxes, tons of free stuff, and what happened? What happens after you win? Like, is it like that? Is it like, hey, this is the president of so-and-so. What's it cost to get on Jimmy Washam's boat in Jersey now?
Man, I pull in the driveway and there's a new truck and boat there, and the folks are there with like a new home giveaway, and all of a sudden you live like a rapper. No, that's not the way it happens. It absolutely has been life changing. I think that if it was outside of this crazy COVID era, that things may have happened quicker. 100%, I've had partnerships strengthen, and that means a lot to me. I've been a guy that I've wanted to show longevity with partners. I don't want to be the guy that chases the penny and here this year and then over there the next year. So some very important partnerships have strengthened. But with that being said, I've still had to work hard at it, and I've got a lot of room to grow. I mean, I'm going into 2022. I don't even have a line sponsor, and I've tried. I don't have a real sponsor. There's a lot of room for growth with non-endemics. I mean, you would think, before I won the title, if somebody asked, hey, if you won the title, you think you'd have a real sponsor, a line sponsor for the next year? I would have said, yeah. But it hasn't happened. So, but at the same time, that's a good thing because I've got room to grow. Right now I can throw whatever reel and whatever line I want to. And, the right time will come along where I can partner with someone that I feel will be a long-term, relationship, that I got confidence in the product, and it'll all work out for the better. So I'm not in any rush to try to, and that's the beauty of it now. I don't have to sell out cheap. 2 years ago, I had to sell out cheap a time or two, and I'm thankful for those relationships, and they've grown and gotten better. But you also learn from that as you grow as an angler.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think you don't have Shimano and Daiwa and all these reel companies and all these line companies fighting over the title champ? Because it's not just unique to you. We've had guys who just won Angler of the Years who don't have title sponsors for the next season on tour. Why do you think that is?
Well, there's two reasons. For one, right now it's the time that we're in. With some companies have done well enough where they can take that risk on trying to grow their brand and expand their marketing plan, but a lot of them were just in a conservative mindset, business mindset right now, where you just kind of want to nestle up with what you have and make it last because we don't know what this next year holds. That's one part of it. The other part of it, I think, that's unique to me is a lot of people are still saying, who in the world is Jimmy Washam? 2 years ago, 5 years ago, I was literally fishing in a bass tracker and dreaming that I could, be a professional angler, and it's all happened quick. I think that the Toyota Series event this past year and the Toyota Central Division Angler of the Year kind of dispels the fact that it was just a fluke that I won the title. That I think that helps provide a little bit of credibility, but people are still saying, well, this guy's been here 2 years, is he going to make it? People are still trying to make sure it's not just a flash in the pan type deal. And I'm going to be around a while to prove that that's not the case.
That's where, you look at the consistencies, like I said, where I go through is it's a lot of $10,000 checks, and then it's not easy to win a Toyota Series division, and you finished third in 2019 in the Centrals and then won the division in 2021. So, like I said, there's a lot of success early, but outside of the wins, it's not just like you win big and then nothing else happens. You've got the meat behind it with the consistent quality finishes, which is a unique combination, because a lot of times when you see the guys that come in and win, it's a mentality of not win or go home, but you don't see the 20, 30th place finishes, because this is something that I've learned is it's really hard to contend for the win while putting yourself in position for a quality finish as well. It's you're walking such a tightrope between fishing too conservative or fishing too aggressively. Do you agree with that there's like a real fine line between putting yourself in position to win and still finishing in that top 10, 15% of the field? Not many guys have that figured out.
Yeah, there's a moment during that event, whether it's in practice or day one or day two or what have you, where you have to feel it out and say, is this one where I need to try to make a consistent paycheck, or are things working out to where I can be a little more risky, and then I can always go back and punt and try to keep that check in my hand at the end of the day. And like you said, I mean, that's an evil that you have to fight, because you can be too conservative, and a conservative angler is going to get paid half the time and finish below the championship when it comes down to the end of the year. A guy that takes a lot of risk is going to have a couple of big paydays and have a couple of 140th place finishes. So there's definitely a line you have to draw there. And really, I think it's just about recognizing what that particular event is going to offer for you, and trying to make the best decision from there. So after Harris Chain in 2020, I had that second place finish. We go to Lake Martin, huge learning experience. I said, well, points are good. I made some money. I'm going to really try to knock it out of the park in this one. I finished like 120th. And I realized, hey, and guess what? At the end of the year, I would have won Rookie of the Year if I'd have just had like an 80th place finish there. So I realized how valuable those points are. You can't have that bomb, and you've got to make that determination going into that event. Is this one that I really need to get aggressive with, or is this one I need to try to make that paycheck with?
Awesome. Couple more things. Let's go to the comments and see. We got to wish Ralph a happy 50th. He only turned 51, so Ralph Miller, happy 50th birthday. And then JB3 wants to know if are you willing to share what line and reels you are using right now, or do you want to keep that under your hat until there's a sponsorship on the line?
I think I would be doing myself a disservice if I gave somebody a free plug like that. Like what kind of line and reels did I win the title on, and I get nothing out of it. I use whatever I want to, and I'm not trying to be.
No, I get it 100%.
Yeah, not at all. But there's a couple of different lines in my boat. There's 3 or 4 different reels on my deck. There's a couple of them that I have a lot of confidence in. I've reached out to those companies, trying to develop a partnership, and it's just not the right time, and place at the moment. But I use whatever I want to, and that in a way is kind of a good thing, because it's, I guess you could say I'm not working for a company with reels, and I can play around with whatever I want to. So.
What's your strength? Like, what's your jam, fishing wise? If you had to do one thing,
I used to say it was offshore, but now as crowded as the offshore game is, and everybody's out there, I'd have to say it's fishing grass. I've spent a lot of time catching fish out of hydrilla and milfoil, and I just feel comfortable in it. I feel like I can break it down a lot quicker than I used to could. So I'd definitely say that's my strength.
Forward-facing sonar guru.
No, have it. Love active target. It's it's a game changer, but my fishing style and the events that I've fished have by no means am I saying it hasn't helped me. I mean, there was a couple of events last year that I can think of Smith Lake catching suspended spots. It was huge. Chickamauga looking at isolated stumps, catching post-spawn fish. That was huge. But I'm not the guy that you walk to the front of my boat and I've got my map and 2D on standby and just run an active target. I'm not that guy yet, but there's definitely a asset to having that and being efficient with it.
You mentioned the fishing gloves. You mentioned the Profound Outdoors. Who else is on board that deserves a shout out for this that is going with you into 2022?
Midway Marine's been huge. They, last year when I lost my title sponsor, they had already expended their marketing budget for 2021, but they mustered up what they could just to help me, keep the ball rolling until I won that Toyota Series event. So, and they're just a great dealer. They've really been behind me. Ranger, I got back on the Ranger team, and that meant a lot to me. My very first fiberglass boat was a Ranger, and I'm excited to, keep chasing bass out of a Ranger boat. And Mercury Marine, everybody knows that they build a pretty stout engine that's just about bulletproof. So they mean a lot to me. Power Pole, my relationship with them has strengthened this year. Boat Logics, they've been huge. Some local guys, Primary Tackle Company, a little local guy that was my very first partner back in 2015. They've always stood behind me, and there's several more. I picked up a new one with Crawl Cane this year, Crawl Cane Fish Attractant. If you could pour freeze dry, basically powdered crawfish into your bags of plastic so they smelled like a real crawfish, would you do it?
Yeah, Crawl Cane. I see what they did there. I see what they did there with the name. Okay, I got it. I got it.
Yeah, that's right. So and there's several more there, and hoping to expand that line, in the near future. As much of an outdoorsman I am. I mean, I'm an angler, but I'm an outdoorsman. I'd love to pick up on some some non-endemic stuff that I could help promote in the hunting scene as well. Maybe that'll come along.
Did you know a bunch of people in this industry before you qualified, or is it something that you had to learn as you go?
Yeah, it's literally been a slap in the face at how the business side of it works. I mean, it's like running my own, construction business with trying to manage all these partnerships and, the money and all the travel and the booking and this and that. And it's really just learning as I've gone. I have met some people along the way that have been, a big help as far as just little tips here and there. But for the most part, it shocked me how the business side of it works, but I feel like I'm starting to get a grasp on it.
Wrapping up here with Jimmy Washam going into his third season as a MLF Pro Circuit angler. And I guess I want to wrap it up, man. You're the defending title champion. You're like a year after leaving a full-time job in law enforcement. You have a 4-year-old at home. You're going to have a newborn in June as you defend your title across the country.
We're buying a house near Pickwick, so just throw another.
When's that go down?
Throw another kink in the chain. But
when does that go down?
We'll be closing next month. So.
Oh my gosh, closing next month. I think you got a derby in between there. You fishing another division of the Toyotas too?
Going to fish the Toyota Centrals, the Pro Circuit, and the Central Opens. So we got a full,
Central Opens.
Yeah. We got a full calendar this year.
Is this a deal where life comes at you fast and you're taking it day by day, or you seem like a pretty cool customer? You got everything under control, or is it like you look back and you're like, man, 3 years ago this was all something that I was working for, and it was just like bam, 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 and now you have it all.
I feel like the last 2 or 3 years I was like riding a roller coaster where the harness doesn't fit very well, and you feel like you're going to fly out of it. And now I feel like I've gotten off the ride, and it's like, what do you do now? You just rode the most bad roller coaster in the park. Now are you going to go sit on the park and feed the birds? So I mean, part of me feels that way, but I'm committed to making sure I've still got a lot to strive for, building longevity, trying to grow, trying to qualify for the Bass Pro Tour. So I've still got a lot to keep me hungry. But yeah, it's been a wild ride. And I look back now that I don't have a full-time job as a deputy sheriff. I don't know how I did it. I have no idea how I'd work an 80-hour work week and then go fish 10 days in a row and then come back and be at work that night. No idea how I did it, but I'm glad I don't have to do it anymore.
I mean, I don't know what a sheriff deputy makes, but is it weird looking at your bank account and going, that's from fishing?
Yeah, it is. No doubt. But at the same time, I realize that all that's temporary. And now if I don't bass, I don't make money. So, there's that side of it that kind of evens it out.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to do you a favor here. So like you have a really good Instagram profile. You post good stuff on there. Like you said, there's like you announcing 2 hours ago that you're going to have a baby boy in June with the rod, with the crankbait that's blue, right? Yeah. Incorporated that into there. But you've got 1,977 followers. We need every BTL listener now go follow Jimmy Washam on Instagram. It's a good follow. I always throw that up. It's just Jimmy Washam Fishing.
I appreciate that.
So, anything else you want to get in here before we wrap it up, dude? This has been a really good interview. I remember after the first time we interviewed you in 2019, like I said, Jeffries looked at me and we were like, "Dude, that guy has it together," and you did not disappoint this time. That's some really good stuff, especially, I mean, starting off, going back and talking about that adrenaline and managing it. Like if you're listening to this, I think that's worth going back and listening to, because decisions that are made in high pressure adrenaline situations, whether it's a life threatening or whether it's a club championship, at that moment, adrenaline affects those and impacts those decisions for the rest of the day. And Jimmy's obviously figured out how to manage that and how to turn that into a positive instead of a, man, I was spun out 2 hours into the day. It's good stuff, man.
I appreciate that. I really do. It's good to be back with BTL. You're doing a great job now that Jeffries has passed the hat, and hopefully I can get back on here soon and have something else monumental to talk about. We're going to work real hard to get there. But one more thing, I appreciate the Instagram plug. Same handle on Facebook and YouTube. I'm trying to grow a YouTube channel as well. I'm just like a million other guys out there trying to get that going and doing the best I can with it. But if y'all want to see some tournament footage, we'll have, tips and more common or routinely posted content here coming up in the very near future. So y'all give that a subscribe. I'd appreciate it a lot.
Jimmy, thank you very much, and good luck in 2022 as you defend your title championship on the pro circuit.
Thank you so much, Matt. I appreciate it, bud.
That was Jimmy Washam, and like I said, I forgot how good of an interviewer he is. That guy has a lot going for him. And if you look at his MLF profile online, he really seriously started doing this in 2017, fished a few BFLs before that in the Mississippi division, but a meteoric rise for Jimmy Washam in the professional fishing game. That's going to do it for a Tuesday. Before we wrap up, I do want to let everybody know. Tomorrow, we have a show that I've been wanting to have for a long time, and I finally got a hold of him, and we're good to go. Hunter Shryock is going to come on. Like how Jimmy, it seems like 2.5 years and bam, he's won the title and all this. Hunter grinded his way through the Opens, got on the Elite Series, grinded his way there. And if you go back and you look at Hunter Shryock's stats over the last couple of years, the dude has become incredibly consistent. Want to talk into the social media game, he was one of the early guys who was able to secure sponsorship because of busting his hump and providing content, trying to make the Elite Series, and then transition that into success on the Elite Series. So Hunter Shryock on Wednesday, and then on Thursday, it is the 50th show with Uncle Frank. Might have some discount stuff, might have some giveaways, but kind of keeping it close to his vest on what he's going to talk about. But number 50 with Uncle Frank. Also, if you are in the market for a BTL hat, shirt, whatnot, I just remind you that store is not closed. It's still open. You can just go to basszone.com and click on the BTL store at the top. And that stuff is in stock, and that store will remain open all year long. Also, if you are so inclined to leave an iTunes like and review, I think we're approaching 2,000 ratings, comments, likes, reviews. So that helps out when I go to renew stuff and show people about BTL. So that was it. Big thanks to Jimmy Washam. And also a big thanks to Brandon Burks coming on in the first segment to talk about his pending world record meanmouth or state record smallmouth, depending on what they say when the Texas Parks and Wildlife do their studies with it. So that's all we got for BTL on a Tuesday. We'll talk to you tomorrow.